Hello, this is Natalie Ranconi, and this is my case study that I conducted at Cretin-Derham Hall High School. Um, Cretin. First of all, Cretin-Derham Hall is a private school in St. Paul. Very different from Johnson because it's private and because it's located in a different neighborhood than the school that I work at. There are about 1,280 students, which is pretty similar to my school size. And it's also different because they have had iPads for every student for about 4 years. They started with 2 grades 4 years ago, and now everyone has had one for the last 3 years. So it was really promising to see how awesome the iPads were working for their students and their teachers. The administrators at Cretin-Derham Hall are Richard Engler. He is the president. It's his last year there. He's been there for a really long time. And Mona Passman, who was also there when I actually went to Cretin, and those were both working there. Now that was only 10 years ago, but they've been there a lot longer than that. So I talked to both of them, and I got their feedback about how they think it's going with the technology, and they think it's going really well. They're really glad that they switched. Both of them said that they front-loaded a lot with a lot of professional development, and they incorporated a lot of their younger teachers to lead that development because they weren't as experienced as those teachers would be and qualified to teach other people. As we all know, that happens. So they were saying how well it's been going. They don't really have any stealing issues or losing problems now. It was a shakier start, but it's taken them a couple years, and now they feel like they're in a really good place about their iPad system, which is great because Johnson, it's our first year with iPads, and I think there's been a lot of quirks and kinks to work out. So it's nice to see that other schools have that, and they can be still so successful with them 3 years later. The teacher that I observed, I actually spent a little bit of time walking around and seeing other classrooms, but I spent 4 class periods with Marky Crosby. And Mr. Engler thought that she would be a good fit for me because she is a young, energetic teacher who uses iPads in her class for 100% of the teaching. I mean, obviously she's talking to them, but everything they're doing is incorporated on the iPads, which was really fun to see. She's a Spanish teacher. She teaches all grade levels, so I spent 2 class periods with her 9th and 10th graders, and then 2 class periods with her 11th and 12th graders. It was really fun to see how the iPad was just kind of part of it. Was such like it wasn't a separate thing where I'm, at my school, take out your iPads, and then it takes 5 minutes for everyone to get out their iPads from their backpack and, log on. I don't have my backpack, or I don't have my iPad's not charged. Whereas in Marky's classroom, their iPads are already out. They already know. It was a fluid process. It was so awesome to see. It was just part of the class. They all know, they're all projected. She didn't have to spend any time correcting them with the iPads or redirecting them. It was just completely, it was clear that that is what they do every day, and they do it well. So that was really great for me to see, and I'm hoping that that's a direction that I can take and that our school will take as they get more experience. I would love to. She's only been there for 2 years, so I would have loved to have seen what her classroom would have been like the first year, so I could know if I can be as hopeful that they're going to end up running as smoothly as I did in her classroom. Yep, she was really fun to watch. So the time that I spent there, like I said, Mr. Engler walked me around for a little bit, and we kind of peeked our heads in to see how many of the teachers were using those. Even teachers that I had when I was there, that were even on the older side, they were all using them. It was awesome. So that was really fun to see. When I sat in on Marky's classes, she introduced me and told them why I was there, obviously, and I walked around and I got to interact with them and kind of help out with the activities that they were doing, which was really fun. What else did I do? I took some notes. I interviewed some of the staff members, some of the old teachers. I said, what has been the most helpful thing for you guys with the iPads? And they, more than one said, well, we did a lot of professional development. A lot of our meetings, a lot of our time was spent getting everybody on the same page, which is huge because they said consistency in their classrooms. It's not like, oh, you don't need your iPad for that teacher, they don't use it. They are all on the same page. They are all using them in the same way. So students had that expectation right away to come in, that's what you do, which is probably the best way that that will succeed. And then I talked to some students, and that was really fun. I asked them if they liked their iPads, and they're like, well, yeah. And I said, did it take a while to not be so distracted? And they said, well, we used to have Snapchat and everything on there, but then it kind of broke all our iPads, so they got rid of them. And now no one's using them anymore, so that's good. They're saying it used to be an issue, and they've kind of gone over that hump, which makes me feel better because that's something that we struggle with all the time. Kids, jailbreaking their iPads to download illegal apps, and totally takes away from class time. So I didn't see any of that. And I was glad that I got the perspective from the kids that it used to be like that. So now that they've kind of gotten over it, the joy of the initial honeymoon phase of having this thing to play with all the time has totally turned into a learning tool. So that was really fun to hear them talk about and watch them use. So I teach 9th and 10th graders, and those are the students that struggle the most with not being distracted on their iPads at my school. Some days I just have to say, okay, everybody put their iPads away. Take out a piece of paper and a pencil, which is not something I want to do. I want to move away from that. But when they're so hyped up all the time to be doing anything else, even when I'm walking around, it's like there's almost no shame there. They're too excited to be talking to their friends. They're all hyper about a game. It loses so much class time that I almost, loses the value. And we've read so much in this class about how consistency and not caving to that is the only way these will work. And that's how we can avoid it being a passing thing, is if I don't give in to that and say, okay, fine, put them away. Get out your pencil, get out your piece of paper. What can we do? So her 9th and 10th graders were the same kind of rambunctious, and what I've noticed about how she ran her classrooms then, she mixed it up it was probably like every 7 minutes. They had a little activity where, okay, open up Notability, and everybody take out their pen, get back to back with somebody. What does this word mean in Spanish? And then they would write really fast and then flip it around to each other. Oh, by when I got it first. And that was just like, hello, Natalie, why am I not doing more active stuff like that with their iPads? Just because they're using their iPads doesn't mean that they need to sit down. So that was a huge takeaway for me for my 9th and 10th graders. Who they're just as, 14 and 15-year-olds are the same no matter what. Doesn't care if they're really urban, if they're in a private school, doesn't matter. They have energy. So that was really fun for me to see. And then when I saw her it says 10th and 11th graders again. Sorry about that. And then in her 11th and 12th grade classrooms, it was totally like my seniors, where it's springtime, they're mellow, they're lethargic, they're not that interested, they just want to do the bare minimum to get done with the class, whatever they need to do. And so she planned activities on with the iPads that were stretched out and took longer, and collaborated with the partner, and they could settle in for 20 minutes and post all the questions to a discussion board that was projected onto the board. So it made me realize, like, why am I trying to do the same thing with the iPads for all my students? They're different. They grow up. They totally change. Their energy goes somewhere else. So why am I trying to act like what I do, like all technology teaching is the same? So that was a huge moment for them, like, oh, okay, I'm going to start doing things a little differently when consider their age when trying to plan a lesson for the difference between my 12th and my 9th and 10th graders. So that was really interesting to see. I was really impressed with how insightful she was with that. And that can only come with experience. We're 7 months in, she's 2 years in. Who knows what it looked like her first year. I'm sure she wasn't doing that as much. So that was promising for me. All right, so some things that I observed before I get cut off and have to do another video. Well, first of all, the difference between Johnson and Cretan was they have more high quality software. They use Apple TVs to connect to, so when she projects, instead of having a dongle connected or using reflector when sometimes my computer works, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes the internet's there, sometimes it isn't, using AirDrop and sometimes it works. The Apple TV in every room, smooth. Projecting was not a problem. She didn't have to spend any time trying to get her iPad to work. And that's where I lose a lot of my students, because this technology, I can plan as well as I want, but there's always a glitch. There's always something that like makes me have to think on my toes and panic and give them another task in the time being where I can't monitor what they're doing because I'm trying to get myself projected. Something that shouldn't happen. If they're going to give us this resources in the iPads, they need to back it up. So Apple TVs is something that after this, the little device that they can project anything off of, I would love to talk to my administrators about moving into that direction. I know that was tossed around before we got dongles, but I think that I could get enough feedback from all the teachers to say that our systems now aren't consistent enough to work. It was so nice to spend the day at a classroom where things worked. You got to teach. You weren't panicking. So that bummed me out because I wish it was like that, but it also kind of motivated me to give some suggestions. The staff at my school knows that I'm getting my master's in learning technologies, and they would trust me and ask me and look for that feedback, like what should we be doing differently. And that's definitely something I want to take away, is spend the money on the Apple TV for the room. I mean, I don't know how the wireless would affect that. We'd have to obviously back that up as well, but at least we're consistent in every classroom. Not some room has a reflector, so one room has a dongle, because we're all traveling teachers. We don't get to stay in the same room every day or all day. So that was huge. She got to use all of her class time because she wasn't worried about connectivity. She wasn't worried about things not working. She didn't have a backup plan. It was so refreshing. I would love to see that. Next. Routine, discipline. I touched on this a little bit. However, she didn't spend any time redirecting students. The students kind of filled me in on that, but I don't know if it's because of their school environment, or they're just different students, but she didn't spend any time saying, hey, get off your phone, get off your, stop playing the game, get off that website, get off Snapchat, can you get back to what we're doing, please? None of the class time was wasted. They were all engaged. And yes, because she had engaging material for them to do, but that still doesn't always guarantee that everyone is engaged, but they were. It's so part of school for them now. It's their routine. They get in, they have their iPads, they're charged, everything flows smoothly. I was so surprised that she didn't have to tell one kid to stop doing something that they weren't supposed to do. It was amazing. So I was asking her a little bit of how she did that, and she's like, well, it's just, they're lucky. She's lucky. She said that's just how it is now. 2 years she's been there. Yes, that's how it's always been, but she was alluding to some teachers really struggle with this the first and second year that they had the iPads. So that made me feel hopeful. I can do that if I keep harking on them and I keep telling them, and all the teachers get together and make sure we say, okay, class started, iPad out. We won't have to say that anymore. It was really great to see. Okay, I'm going to run out of my 15 minutes of free film, so I'm going to make a part 2 to this video. Thank you.